From the very beginning of my career, I was struck by how little science had to do with psychotherapy. And I recognized that a lot of therapists were out there doing things that they had learned in graduate school that really didn't have much to do with any real evidence we have about what it takes for people to get better, what it takes to get over panic disorder or OCD or severe depression. Many therapists were operating based on a set of principles that really had never been proven. There's no science behind them. And so what I wanted to do, hoped to do, was to publish bibliotherapy, self-help psychology materials that were grounded in science, that were based on the kind of therapy that we know works. And not just the principles of what we know works, but the very specific steps of some of the protocols that have been developed. And over the last 30 years, there are protocols developed that have some science base for practically every problem that you could imagine. And I wanted our books to reflect those protocols and the science behind them.
When we first started thinking about doing self-help books, the only models were early books like I'm Okay, You're Okay, and so on, which are mostly idea books. They were conversion experience books. You were supposed to read it, absorb the ideas, and somehow be converted to the author's way of thinking. I didn't buy that. To my mind, the very best self-help book I had ever read was a little pamphlet written in 1920 that was given out to apprentices in the piano tuning and regulation industry, because it started at the assumption that the reader could only read simple English. And it proceeded very step by step, such as the piano is the large wooden object in the corner. Lift the lid, count the keys. It's a very simple concept, but if you assume that your reader knows nothing, then you have to figure out what do they need to know first, what do they need to know second. And by choosing an apprentice handbook as our model, what we realized was we're teaching skills. We're not imparting knowledge. So it's more like teaching someone how to improve their tennis score than trying to convert them to your way of thinking. So that really is the basis of all our books, is start at the very beginning, assume the reader knows nothing about the topic, and present each step in order, skill by skill.
One of the self-help models that we found most obnoxious was the Ain't It Awful self-help book, which basically went on for 190 pages telling people all about the problem that they already suffered from and actually knew all about how awful it was, and then gives them in 10 or 12 pages in the last chapter a few pieces of advice, some of it very aphoristic, about how to deal with it. And in my mind, that kind of self-help book, while often very popular because it would trumpet how terrible a problem or disorder was, ended up providing people almost nothing in terms of actual tools to get better. So we wanted to do something very different from that. We wanted to do something that allowed people to develop skills in a stepwise fashion, and as they developed those skills, they could actually change their life.